The headlines and the talking heads scream this morning that President Trump had angered and alienated our trading partners.
Is the Trump administration ruining or at least damaging relationships with our allies in the process of trying to put America first?
But diplomatic pleasantries could hardly mask the widening rift between the U.S. and its closest allies.
Increasingly, there is a gap between the United States and the rest of our allies in the G7. Those distinctions are widening, not closing, and that is greatly, greatly to be feared.
I just went into REM cycle again. But the president didn't seem too concerned heading into today's G7 summit in Canada.
We have massive trade deficits with almost every country. We will straighten that out. And I'll tell you what, it's what I do. It won't even be hard.
That might be a little bit of an exaggeration. Otherwise, we would have done the NAFTA thing. Trump has proven naysayers wrong, though, on foreign policy at every turn. So might his tough trade strategy bear similar results? Let's ask Mike Pillsbury, director of the Center on Chinese Strategy at the Hudson Institute, and Michael Malice, the author of Dear Reader, the unauthorized biography of Kim Jong-il. Great to have both of you on. Mike Pillsbury, where are we here with this this wild hysteria? We finally have a president who's standing up for American workers and American companies, and he's getting nothing but grief from our allies. They want everything to be the way it was. Why do they want everything to be the way that it was?
Well, I think there's great fear that President Trump is going to succeed. He's actually made some elaborate preparations for both the Singapore summit and the China trade and the other trade deals. So if he succeeds, you realize what this means. For the last 3 presidents, they're shown up as being failures. All the experts who are now criticizing President Trump will equally be embarrassed. Reputations will be shredded. There's a lot at stake here for these talking heads. So I do think President Trump's going to succeed. And when it happens, we ought to do more than just drink champagne. We should be talking about who was wrong.
Yeah, well, yes. Who was wrong
and why,
and the policies that didn't work,
yes,
and the policies that did. Now that's a big if, but we've seen for years Canada dumping lumber, heavily subsidized lumber industry in Canada into the United States. We've seen France prop up Airbus to the detriment of Boeing. We've lost hundreds of millions of dollars of business for Boeing over the years. This happens with automobiles in Germany. It happens across the board on so many different products. Donald Trump said, look, we want to trade with you. We just want to do it differently. Michael, I want to play a soundbite for you from President Trump today before he boarded that helicopter for the G7 on Russia and the G7. Let's watch.
Russia should be in this meeting. Why are we having a meeting without Russia being in the meeting? And I would recommend, and it's up to them, but Russia should be in the meeting. It should be a part of it. You know, whether you like it or not, and it may not be politically correct, but we have a world to run.
Michael.
I think it's absolutely wonderful. President Trump's going to be attacked over Russia ties regardless, so he might as well drive his opponents into apoplexy. What I think's going on, I mean, for our amusement, what I think is honestly going on is the Italian elections are what's causing the problems here. You had the five-star movement in the league sign into a new Italian government, and that's forced Macron and Merkel to run into each other's hands and try to kind of get the wagons together regarding the EU. So for President Trump on the other side to be going towards more of a unilateral position and less of this globalist, you got NATO, you got the EU, you've got the United Nations, you got the G7, this is scaring them because they're losing control of the plan.
Yeah, the free ride is over. I think that, you know, the Edgar Winters group, remember the free ride? Come on and take a free ride. Well, it's like the free ride is we can't keep it going. We can't keep it going. There's no constituency for these big trade deals that are essentially unenforceable. Mike Pillsbury. No, they're not popular. It's why Trump won Pennsylvania. It's why he'll win again if he sticks to his guns here. What about the Russia deal? That's provocative in some circles. G7 historically hasn't included Russia. China is really, in many measures, a bigger economy, almost a bigger economy by some measures than ours at this point. But Russia is still a significant power.
Well, as you know, I'm a fan of President Trump's books, and he's previewed his approach to trade and to summits, that he wants to get all the players together. So if you leave Russia out, it's hard to do a global deal. And he's talking about righting wrongs that have gone on since about 1950 in terms of our being taken advantage of in the trade field. So adding this additional, basically brilliant ploy, the Russians aren't here, they should be. It's another effort for him to recast the international stage. And as I say, if he wins, if he succeeds at this, even partially, it embarrasses 30 years of policy makers, talking heads, and heads of state in our own country as well as overseas.
Yeah, I mean,
lots at stake
Alan
here, don't you think?
Greenspan, like Larry Summers,
yes.
and all these guys are like predicted, you know, recession. The first 18 months is going to be a disaster, and
they
we've
seem
seen
to be
different
afraid
ways.
of friction. There's a little bit of friction here now with the Europeans and the
He
Canadians.
hasn't called Macron French fry yet, which I think is positive. Gentlemen, let's now talk about what we were referring to implicitly, which is the upcoming summit with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, Trump is saying he doesn't need to prepare very much. He's been preparing for this for a long time, as has the other side. Now, Michael, does this inspire confidence or give you pause? I mean, this is kind of the approach the president took to the debates, and he made that point this morning at Marine One. He said, look, Hillary was prepping for months. I basically winged it. He really didn't prepare much. He kind of winged it. He went by his gut, and I got to say, his political gut has been really good on most issues. I mean, you can't really question it.
We still get a laugh line from saying, yeah, you'd be in jail. He's actually been preparing for this for quite a while. There's footage of him in the 90s, I think, talking about how he'd be ready for a talk with North Korea. And the point with the thing, with this negotiation is, it doesn't really matter in a sense what's agreed to. What matters is how can we trust them and how can we verify what they're going to promise. It's very easy to say we're going to give up our nukes, we're going to liberalize our country, but North Korea does not negotiate in good faith, both with its own citizens and with the international community. So on paper, they can do some things that are very simple, like at ending the Korean War and promising further talks and this and that would look great, but you can't trust this man again. He kills members of his own family, and his sister, who the press was doting over, was in charge of brainwashing the children in that country. So this is the nature of the beast that we're dealing with.
I can't believe the president's bringing In-N-Out burgers to him, though. Do you see that? He's bringing a whole bag. I'm joking. But I mean, I think he could be a person bribed with food. I think we have to think creatively here, Mike.
Well,
I mean, the guy seems to, right? I mean, he wants, but he wants popular culture. He likes Dennis Rodman, who, come on, he has to work for the CIA, right, Rodman?
He's the one person in North Korea who doesn't have to worry about food, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have In-N-Out burger. So Pillsbury,
carrots and sticks.
No, but
that's my line.
But this is true. You know, they promised old Madeleine Albright. I don't mean old. I just mean Madeleine Albright. They promised her. Remember the champagne glasses with Kim Jong-il, and it was going to be a new way. John Kerry did his best, and Hillary tried, and it's been going on and on and on, and yet nothing. But I sense that something might have broken here. China is involved clearly in this. China is probably calling a lot of the shots. You know, you're the China expert. Am I right about that, you think?
They're helping. I think what's really happening, though, is President Trump is understating his preparation over the last 18 months. He's written about how to deal with North Korea 18 years ago. He wrote a chapter of a book about it. The preparation for 18 months has involved carrots and sticks, both much stronger than previous presidents. Even yesterday, President Trump said he's got 300 more sanctions he's considering putting on.
I'm looking forward to having him to the White House, and then it's Rocket Man, and then it's like, it was a very nice letter, and it's like boom, 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 right? It's like,
imagine if you're Chairman Kim, you're 34 years old. You know, you're a little nervous going into this summit in Singapore. You better deliver something to this man, or you could be punished. President Trump has also focused a lot, especially yesterday, on the opportunity you, Chairman Kim, have to turn your country into an economic beacon around the world. This is a very poor country. He's had some limited economic reforms in the last 2 or 3 years. So if this works, and I think it will, he's got a combination of fear and incentives, both at work, for the Singapore summit. No other president has done this.
No one's ever tried to do this.
That's right.
Mike Malice, before we let you go, China, the report from NBC today that China was trying to figure out ways to spy on the summit, and we're bringing in these special machines that sweep for all sorts of surveillance devices. I mean, is that just like James Bond stuff? Is that really happening? I mean, the Chinese are very entrepreneurial.
Well, I think James Bond was British, and we've got plenty of American know-how. That's not really going to be a concern. I'm going to be very concerned to see what those photo ops look like. I mean, the idea that if you ask said 5 years ago that Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are going to be shaking hands in Singapore, and these would be the two leaders of their countries, everyone would have thought this was bonkers, and yet here we are.
Yeah, Joe Scarborough said, didn't he think they're going to blow up the world? I mean, he's like, Trump is like the most dangerous man on the planet. Right. I mean, all of these people have egg on their faces, if you ask me. And fantastic segment, guys. By the way, you've got to see the video that poses the question. And is this totally unacceptable behavior? That is the question. Or something we all secretly wish we could do. Coming up with Raymond Arroyo here with that and a new Oprah exhibit in D.C. The Friday Follies next.